So yes, hello everyone. My name is Carl, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how we at Kry or Livy protect medical data without using passwords in some of our apps. So super quick about myself. My name is Carl. I'm 27 years old, master's in computer science from KTH here in Stockholm. I work as the head of security at Kry Livy, and in my spare time I participate in hacking competitions for the Swedish team Hacking for Soldier. And if you want to contact me after this talk, you can choose any of these methods. So this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about. So first, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background about our company, so you understand the context and like what's the challenge here, and also explain a little bit how we've been doing authentication in Sweden and Norway. And then how this then led up to the challenges and the process when expanding to other markets such as France and the UK, and talk a little bit about that process, what constraints we have, and the solution we came up with, and then a little bit about how well that has worked for these 6 months it has been in production. So some disclaimers and expectation management. So this talk is more about the constraints and the design challenges we had for our business case. So this is about constraints, about business, about a little bit about the process we went through. This will not include any new fancy technology. I mean, I'm from a technical background and I would love that, but this is not that talk. Kry is what we're called in Sweden and Norway, or in Scandinavia, and Livy is our international brand. So we are an online healthcare provider. So instead of going to your physical primary healthcare clinic, you can have a video meeting with the doctor or psychologist with the app in your phone. So this means that we work in healthcare. We process a lot of healthcare data, including medical records, which is, of course, extremely sensitive information. I would argue that it's possibly the most sensitive information an average person has. In some cases and countries, this can be like a matter of life and death, even. So it's a big responsibility. One of our core values at the company is what we call patient first. And so we're trying to build a lot, when we design the product and the services, we think about the patient perspective, and that means that usability is an extremely important factor when creating this service. The service needs to be usable by anyone, anywhere, from 10 years old to 100 years old, all kind of people. And just a little bit about the size. We have over 500,000 users and currently serve about 3% of primary healthcare in Sweden and growing steadily. How have we been doing this in Sweden? In Sweden, we have something called Bank ID. It's a digital identity solution. It's issued and validated by banks in Sweden. So it's a privately created system, but it has been well established and used both in private and public sector, including, for example, for doing your filing your taxes or interacting with healthcare. So that's what we've been using in Sweden. Works perfectly fine, which means we offload the problem of identifying a person to someone else, and we use that service. In Norway, pretty much the same. They have their own thing, also called Bank ID, a digital identity solution, which is well established and can be used for this. So up until this point, when we were operating in Sweden and Norway, we hadn't really had to think too much about this. It was like this was the obvious solution, and we went for it, and that worked fine. So then we were going to expand to first the UK, and then that was this spring, and then this summer we also launched in France. And in the UK, if I haven't misunderstood this completely, you don't even have a personal identification number. And that is something we just take for granted here in Sweden. and there is no like established digital identity solution in place to use. And on top of this, our CEO chipped in this process, and he said, well, passwords suck. Can we get rid of them? It's annoying. It doesn't have anything to do with healthcare. It doesn't help the user. And we were like, yeah, we can try that. And he was also like, by the way, we're launching in 3 months because this business opportunity opened up. So, trying to rebuild large portions of your whole system to fit another market with all its regulation stuff, and also creating some new authentication mechanism without using passwords. That was the challenge. So, basically, we want to authenticate the users without using passwords or any, rebranding of passwords, which is just passwords. And there is no digital identity solution already in place, so we can't just go get the standard thing that they use because there is no such thing. And it really has to be user-friendly. And I've listed this 3 times because it was like, we need both because we are healthcare and healthcare has to be accessible, but also because we are a startup, we need to enter this market and we need to grow fast. So we need to get users on board and get them to use our service so there can be no friction in the onboarding process. But also, we want this to actually be secure. Otherwise, it wouldn't be much of a challenge. And a little bit of help was that compared to most other online services, we have fairly few users which are fairly valuable, each of them. So it's fine, there is some budget to spend on manual processes for users. So it's fine if the solution doesn't automatically cover every single edge case in an automatic self-service fashion. It's fine for users to have to call into the customer support and have something solved. So at least that was a little bit of help in this. So we started, I don't know exactly where we started, but at some point we started to think about our data model. And previously it has pretty much been one login is one person, and it's all the same thing, a device, a person, a patient. These were all the same concept. It was a user. But fortunately, around the same time or a bit earlier, we had to start dealing with parents seeking healthcare for their children, for example. So we had already kind of started moving away from this one-to-one connection between a user and the patient, because one user can seek care for both themselves and their children, and the children can have multiple guardians. So we have these many-to-many relationship between actual users and patients. And then we also started to think about, okay, the device you're signing into is maybe actually a separate concept that we have to treat differently. So we started to think a little bit about breaking up our data model into more smaller units that we treated differently. And this was very helpful. We also started to think a little bit about the different scenarios and use cases. What do you do with authentication? You, in a traditional website, you register to the website, you log in, you log out. Maybe you need to recover your account if you forgot your password and so on. So we started to, write down all these scenarios. But since we are the service is only accessible through our mobile app, so there's no traditional web interface anymore for the user. So everything was centered around what if you get a new phone? What if, in that case, do you still have access to your old phone, but you're just buying a new one? Or was your old phone stolen, so you don't have access to it? Or maybe you're just reinstalling the same phone. And also something I haven't really written down is maybe if we want to use your phone number as some kind of factor in this, maybe you changed your phone number and maybe you have your device but a new number, or you have the different combinations of this, and you started to think about which of these are actually the same scenario and started trying to map this out. Someone also suggested this service. So there's a service called OnFido, which is basically a service where you submit some claims about identity, like my name is Carl, I'm 27 years old, and this is my address. And then you also submit some proofs for this. for example, a picture of your driver's license and a picture of yourself. And what they do is they basically see if these proofs support these claims and then give you a status back on that. So we thought, okay, but then we can use that for establishing identity. So that's a good thing. But it's also a bit of a hassle. It's like a semi-automated process, I think. It's not instant. It takes some time to process this request. So we didn't really want to do this like directly when you registered, because, as I said, we want a really smooth onboarding process. So we actually started thinking about different types of accounts. So maybe when you register, before you've had any kind of medical interaction, your account isn't actually that sensitive. We only ask for like your phone number and your email address. So that's more like a regular user account for any other service. So we started to also rethink this binary distinction between like logged in and not logged in, like every account being equal. So we said like maybe actually not every account is equal. So basically, I'll get to this in the solution. But also one other thing was like, what about revocation? Like what about if someone gets access to your account? How can we remove that access from another person? Which is probably also the biggest problem we still have, actually. But anyway, what we came up with is basically like a public key challenge response thing with this like tiered identity thing. So when you register to our service, you create a device. This is the like conceptual idea behind the scenes, and then this is of course presented in some user-friendly way on the front end. So you generate a private key on your phone, you submit the public key to the server, it's validated that they work and it's all fine. If you don't already have a user, that user is created and your device is linked to the user. If there already is a user, but that account is empty, or it doesn't contain any medical information, then we only need to do a verification via your phone number, traditional like sending a code and do that to kind of recover your account. But if this user that already existed has had any kind of medical interaction, then we force you to go through this on-FIDO verification straight away. So when you're signing up for the first time, you just provide some basic information like your phone number, your email address, you sign in. And then when you actually are going to have a meeting with a doctor or a psychologist, at that point we verify your identity, and then your account is kind of upgraded from a user to a patient. And that's when it becomes sensitive. And then it's also possible to enroll multiple devices per user accounts and link this together. So we still have some challenges on the UX part of this to try to make this like easily understandable by the users. So, but that's the idea on some things we're going to improve later on. So, advantages of our system, like this is our opinion. Well, there is no password to remember or that can be phished. That's good. It's pretty seamless. Like you just log in, you provide your phone number and your email address, and it works fairly well. So we consider it a fairly user-friendly process. And since we have tied the access to your account to the physical device, we have reduced the attack surface from like a global to a local scenario, which is also good. Some disadvantages is that it kind of breaks like a conventional mental model for most users. We have been like conditioned throughout all our lives that an account is a username and a password, and that's what you put in, and you can log in and then you can log out again, and you can log in and log out, and someone else can log in on your phone if they want, as long as they bring their own account. So that's all of those concepts kind of changes here, where we don't really have a login step. We have a registration step and possibly linking to your previous account step, which is similar but not the same. And this is a problem because then we try to use the same words that are well established, like registering and logging in, but it doesn't work exactly like the user is used to. So this causes a little bit of challenge on the UI side. Also, the revocation of access is currently a manual process. You have to contact the customer support to get that device disabled. And it works, but maybe if your phone gets stolen, you would like that process to be instant, and maybe it's not currently. So because we have to go through these fairly manual steps of verifying your identity. And so this has been in production for about 6 months. And users are registering, they are staying, they managed to use the service. We have had very little contacts to the customer support about people not being able to use this. There have been a couple of cases, especially in these situations where two people have wanted to use the same device, and some confusion, when switching devices and stuff. So it's still not perfect. There is still room for improvement, but it works, I would say. And we have had no known incidents of accounts being stolen or hijacked in any way, or any data leaking. So that's also good. Well, I mean, you always have this problem with these kind of things, that there might have been cases, but we don't know about them. But this is all we have to go on, that we have no known incidents so far. And I mean, we are a startup and really subscribe to like this agile and iterative work processes, and this is something we're working on continuously. So trying to make this process even smoother and more secure. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had. Thank you.